we're going to start the second part of our conversation today, and it's going to be a bit different from the first. It is going to be about becoming a Jungian analyst, about training, particularly about ISAP, of course.
Let's start with the beginning then. Jung was opposed to the creation of institutes. What do you think about that? Are we going against his will?
Yes. Joe Wheelwright came to Jung, I think, around 1950 and said, I've got some great news for you. We're going to form a training institute in San Francisco. And Jung said, oh, really? Do you have to? Well, Wheelwright, if you have to, you can do it, but make it as disorganized as possible. Uh-huh. He didn't like organizations. They kill the spirit. You get routines, you get habits, you get rules, regulations, and people start memorizing answers to questions, and you lose the spirit of the psychology. That's the danger that he foresaw. Did it happen?
If I have heard correctly, he was against the institute in Zurich, but Yolande Jacobi was bringing big maps of an institute which should be enormously big, and then he realized, no, I have to be involved because to diminish the proportions, the size. If that's correct, you are the historical authority.
I know it was on her initiative that the institute was created. She was the driving force behind it. She modeled the institute on the training institute, the Freudian one in Berlin, created by Karl Abraham. And she more or less insisted that in order to maintain the heritage of analytical psychology, you have to have an educational program. And Jung went along with it, but when it was created, he gave a speech at the founding of the Institute, and the way he talked about it had almost nothing to do with training. It had to do with research. Mm-hmm. And Wolfgang Pauli was on the original board, and the understanding was this was going to be a research institute. Yolande Jacobi was interested in training, and it very quickly became a training program, and Pauli resigned because he wasn't interested in training. He was a physicist. Mm. So there you are. That's the beginning. And
Jung was interested in research as well.
And he was very interested in research, and he thought it should be publishing research papers and research books and so on. But in the end, he had to go along with it because his students wanted it, people around him. They were quite enthusiastic. They formed a curatorium, and I think C.A. Meyer was the first president. And so more or less over his, not dead body, but against his will, they went forward. And then I think he sort of got used to it, and he would come to the Institute from time to time, have interviews with the students there. And he said some very interesting things. Some of his last lectures have been recently published. They weren't really lectures, but discussions with the students. And he really encouraged them to have the experience. He said, you have to go to the 2 million-year-old man in you. That's where, go back to the source. If you have a problem, don't look in my books. Go to that 2 million-year-old man.
But do you think that he had a point? Do you think that institutions kill the spirit?
Look at the church.
But every institution has this tendency to rigidify the spirit and to transform it into rules, and of course, but at the same time it's needed keep something alive, to train. It's unavoidable, unescapable paradox. Or,
the primary, I think, the primary aspect of training is the analysis in any event.
Yes.
I mean, we have a massive reading list for people to study before they take the propaedeuticum. But when the propaedeuticum being the first set of exams, but it's one thing to know the tradition that's being passed down in books, and it's another thing to know what you're saying about the 2 million-year-old man, or whatever it is inside of us that connects with Jungian psychology, that makes those what we read alive in our life. That there's something of research in that. We just don't write it. I mean, we don't publish it. But I think that when I read somebody's thesis, I see research being done and something valuable being added to the understanding, not just of Jungian psychology, but of being human as such. I just was a thesis advisor for somebody who wrote on money, who had a completely different take on how money can manifest. It had to do with Freud and Jung, but then went beyond that, and I was really quite impressed by that. So I think we are doing research, we're just not writing about it.
I think an institute is like the setting. In analysis, we have a setting with time boundaries, money boundaries, rules, ethical rules.
Structure.
So the structure. So the institute is comparable to the setting. It's a kind of organizational setting for training, with boundaries, with rules, with ethical, with time. So it's like in the big, something what we do in the small, in the dyad. But then the danger is that the rules and boundaries and all become an aim in itself. Mm-hmm. Then the spirit goes lost. But I think there are many people who always say, no, keep attention of the spirit, and it is just a container,
Yeah.
and not the spirit in itself, but where the spirit can evolve and develop, a container.
Debbie, you were the president of ISAP for 9 years, weren't you? How did you manage to hold that tension between rigidity, structure, rules, and soul?
Soul again. Soul again.
I want to, before we go to that,
Yeah, okay.
because that evokes all the things around COVID and all that jazz. I think one of the things that ISAP has and has hung on to, and I hope always will hang on to, is the way in which we allow each semester's program to come to fruition. And one of the things I heard the 9 years I was president from almost every new student, I can't get that class, will it be offered again? Can I have the class that was last semester? Someone told me this was good, I want to do this again. It's on the wrong level. It's on some like, I want this, I think I need that. And this smorgasbord, this way in which every semester is completely different. Analysts are encouraged to teach on what has meaning for them at the moment. And students have no requirements to go to classes. The only one is the WAE, the word association, where you have to do something, but otherwise this freeness of listening to what is happening in your analysis. What are you are here in this structure. This structure is not the training. What you do in this is your training. And that I think is critical. I know there is at least one institute that starts with Collected Works 1 and goes through Collected Works 18
Right.
and does choo. I know another one that has people in pods, and this is that pod. It starts here. They're in tripods. It's structured way more differently than how we have just this infrastructure here. And I think in terms of Jung's interest in it being this unfolding of this essential in us, we have to hang on to that chaos.
We're keeping it disorganized, as Jung was, as far as much as possible.
Somewhat disorganized.
Somewhat disorganized.
I don't like the word training. It sounds like animal training. You know, you train horses, you train dogs, and so on. Or, of course, it implies an apprenticeship style of work. Mm-hmm. Paul became a Jesuit. Okay.
That's right.
I like the word formation. That's what they do with the Jesuits. You have a formation. And that means intellectual, emotional, spiritual, all the levels are brought into the formation process. It's an immersion. It is intense. And the idea is that you form a character or an attitude.
An attitude, yeah.
That is consistent with the tradition, okay? But it can be individual, but it is based in a tradition. And I like that word formation for what we do rather than training. Training is a common word used in all the institutes we train. But I think here it is a question of formation, and that's why the analysis is the fundamental feature of the formation.
Absolutely.
Analysis first, academic second, supervision another. It's a three-pronged process, and they're all connected and related, but the analysis is the fundamental feature of the formation, as I see it.
Absolutely. Agree.
Very true.
If you would talk to somebody that is studying psychology in university, and he doesn't know much about Jungian stuff, cognitive behaviorism, what would you say that is distinctive between any Jungian training program or any Jungian formation program and other schools of psychology? What do we focus on? What are our values, as it were?
We are not training methods. There is no method or
Techniques?
Or techniques. We formate an attitude, a deeply psychoanalytic attitude. Perhaps this is also a kind of technique then at the end, but it is
It's a way of being.
thinking and being as analysts. That's a big difference, isn't it?
One of the things that I say, which is merely descriptive, is that in my practice over 45 years, a large proportion of my practice consists of CBT and other behavioral psychologists and psychotherapists. That is, there's their own recognition that there are limits to what can happen with working on ego and symptoms and symptom relief. It doesn't add to a deeper experience of themselves and of how life is. And that, so, I mean, I think for me at least, it's been the reality that CBT and other supportive psychotherapy and so forth, counseling, just are not sufficient for those who practice it themselves.
One could perhaps also say we offer experience, and it's not about technique or academic knowledge first. The main thing is really offering the possibility of a deep experience of psychological process reality. That's what is different from the university, what it can offer.
I think another difference is that we teach Jung, Jung's ideas and his theories, and that's part of the program. And the exams are also in the exams. We expect the student to be able to speak about what did Jung write, what did Jung say about this and that. But it's certainly, I think we treat Jung's ideas as with respect and as a jumping off place in many cases to get some understanding or interpretation, hermeneutic, to understand symbols and the process, the experience process. So it's certainly a part of our program to teach Jung's ideas and what he says in his writings.
That gets back to what you said early on when you said Jung, like Plato, is going to be read 100 or 200 or 300 years from now. Jung lurks in the shadows of psychology these days. As you said, we teach Jung. Well, you don't see Jung being taught in psychology programs, and so he's lurking there in the shadows. But when people come to us who practice in those modalities, it's when Jung comes out of the shadows, and shows the value of his thinking and how he approaches the psyche, how he approached the psyche, and how we do.
One thing I heard during my training, formation, before going into the practice room, we just forget them and then we sit as ourselves. And that really touched me in a way. Does it relate to what you're saying? We learn about Jung, but then it's the person that lives the experience?
Well, what Jung says is what really affects the patient is not what you say or your interpretations, it's who you are. Mm-hmm. That's the idea of formation. You bring a presence and an attitude into the session no matter what you say, and it creates an atmosphere and it creates a field, and it's in that field that the person finds their own truth and their own way. So, yeah, we leave the theories at the door, but they're always there in the back of our minds. We think, where is this person in their individuation process? Where are they blocked? What do they need? What's the diagnosis? This and that. But we don't put that in the foreground. And it's more a matter of presence and interacting in this field that is created in the sessions. I think that we value.
And it's very rarely that we use the typical Jung concept. It's your anima, it's your anima. It's rarely, perhaps I think about it, but it's just what you say, with your present, and then the process goes on.
Also, when we teach picture interpretation, for instance, we offer the ABC of how you, the
Right,
different
left,
criteria,
up,
the symbolism of the corners and so on. But if you are really in front of the picture itself, one should forget about all these references and not look for the right corner above and say, that's... No, you have to be open to what comes and not deduce.
Let the picture speak to you. Yeah. I remember going into the Musée d'Orsay in Paris and looking at the Van Gogh painting of these two field workers lying in the hay for their lunch break, and I could smell the hay. It was, when you look at that real painting, it's a different experience from seeing it in a book or on screen or something. It's alive. The Mona Lisa is like that too. She follows you as you cross the room. So paintings are living things, and you experience them. Yeah. And the patient experiences us at levels we have no idea.
Yeah.
And they tell us, things we've said and done that we don't remember, we don't recognize.
Yeah, that's right.
Once you said it,
Well,
they've
all had this experience. They come back, and the last hour was the most amazing thing that's ever happened in my life. And I'm like, what happened? Tell me all about it. What happened? It's so interesting, right?
They're reading you. Their psyche is reading you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What about the spiritual side or the irrational side? That is something that differentiates Jungian trainings to other programs, isn't it?
Well, we aren't afraid of religion and symbols, even traditional religions. If someone comes from Buddhism or Mormonism or Christianity or Judaism, as Jung said, I treat all the religions with respect. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we do as Jungian analysts, and try to hear what are their values and what are they getting out of their religion, and where is it limiting them? Because religions also limit your psychic experience. So, but we aren't afraid of religion and spirituality, and I think those are sort of taboo words in modern, postmodern culture.
We're also not afraid of awe. And we invite awe, and we help people see the awe, some are awfulness of their life, because it's got something sacred in it. And that's always eye-opening for people.
That's spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah. Lewis, I want to come back to your question about those 9 years, because one thing that strikes me that we're not really good at, and maybe it speaks to that other question too, about what we need to be critical of or criticize for. One of the big events of the presidency time I had, and one of the reasons it was so long compared to others, is because of COVID. And I know that you, Marco, when you were doing yours, I think you were doing the accreditation stuff, or was that already started? All of us have had some collective, I think
Paul and Marco were very involved in accreditation.
So there's always then a collective thing, big thing that we all, it's nice to be awesome and looking for dreams and doing interpretations and symbolic and all that. But the reality is there's an accreditation world out there. There's a COVID, there's a pandemic, there are finances, there's bills to pay. There's a hardcore thing too, that as the leaders, then we have to bear that and not get lost from what we're really doing.
Now you were speaking as a president.
As a president,
Right.
yes. As
what
the
task
leaders,
we had to
the
connect
leaders
with,
of having to
with the
hold.
collectivity, what happens
Exactly.
outside.
That's what I heard you asking about. And for each one of us, it's a different. It was a different era and a different thing. So
we had to make the move here, find this house, and
right.
make a move here.
because we had outgrown the
yeah.
other one.
Well, we had also similar challenges. We had to find the first
First one.
building.
Oh, the first building on
Of
Hochstrasse.
course,
Yes.
we had to create the regulations. We had to build up a secretariat, and all from the beginning, from the scratch. And we had also to ask for the recognition by the town if our training was considered as a reason for giving students the right to be
The visa,
here.
the residency
The
visa.
residency.
Visa.
And to be recognized by IAP also, International Association. So there were a lot of legal things we had to settle.
And then how do you do all that and hold on to the soulfulness of our work, of our mentorship, of our formations, of our what we do here for our students.
We were not so much aware about that dimension. We did what we had to do. We came together every week, meetings between 8 in the evening until 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was a lot of work where we couldn't think, has that something to do with soul?
But what you were creating by doing that was a community. And I think ISAP is very, very fortunate to have the communitas that we have, which is quite unusual among institutes in the world, that we have, very congenial meetings and even differences. We can live with differences, but the sense of community here, I think, is very special from my experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When I became president after Paul, I didn't know anything about regulations, Canton, and I didn't bother with it. I left it to
That's
Paul.
one way of doing it.
I saw my mission as making ISAP visible in the international community because I had been very involved in the IAP, traveled all over the world. So that was my, as I understood my task, to bring ISAP to the attention of the world. And I think we did a pretty good job at that. And so I felt very good about it too. I didn't feel I was just doing my duty. I really felt the community supported what we were doing, and the meetings were wonderful, good atmosphere, good feeling. So it was a very nice time. I only served for 4 years, as did Paul. I think that's been more or less the pattern. Debbie longer because of COVID and other matters, but now John is stepping in. What do you find as you step in, John?
Well, so far I haven't had any of the growing pains that Paul had, or bringing it into the world that you had, or the COVID that Debbie had, and certainly not the BOG, the accreditation that Marco had. I'm still learning the job. The task I see for us right now is to first, of course, secure our future. And that's a financial thing, unfortunately, that we have to pay attention to that closely. But then also to expand our reach into other areas of the world. When we were talking about criticisms of Jungian psychology, Jungian psychology also has been accused of being antithetical to inclusion to other cultures, especially, let's say, from Africa or South Asia. And I see the task of ISAP now as expanding our outreach to other areas of the world, and trying to learn from them and to be receptive to them. I think that's also what makes ISAP relevant to the world right now. As you said, Marie, we have a community. The community seems to be interested in working in that direction too. So I think it's a hopeful future for us in that direction.
And we're launching a journal shortly.
We are launching a journal.
Yeah, that will focus on exactly what you're talking about.
That's right, on east, west, north, south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about community. This is something that came up quite a lot. Could you tell us a bit more? What do you mean by the community at ISAP?
It's always the community, Gemeinschaft oder Gesellschaft, Max Weber, oder? Gesellschaft is organization or the rules, oder? And you have a role in it and the position, and community, you know each other and you have a common feeling together. And it is oscillating between the two poles. You need organization, and then it's danger you lose community, and too much community is no organization. So we have to oscillate in this, on this spectrum. And is it possible with all this diversity we have from China, from Japan, and so on, and do they have their own community, or do they merge with the Swiss?
That's what's so important. That is
Yeah.
so. What's so
Question.
the way in which people, the students from diverse cultures and analysts from diverse cultures, get together, and interact with one another. That to me has been a remarkable thing to observe and experience. How we, when I think about community also, I think about all the blood, sweat, and tears analysts put into making this institute possible.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And money too, yeah.
And money. Yeah. That might be the blood. That goes into it. As you said, Debbie, when you said what people are interested in, they teach what they're interested in at a given moment. Well, that's their way of contributing. That's our way of contributing to the community as a whole. And the students seem to appreciate it, and they seem to be energized by it.
But you know what creates it? What is the root of community in our group? It's in the analysis.
Yes.
And Jung writes about that. Kinship libido is born in analysis. We're all kin. We belong to a family. Every analyst in this community has been in analysis with an analyst, who has been in analysis with an analyst, who was in analysis with Jung. And it's a descendant family. It's a growing family. So I think we have all trained in Zurich with analysts in Zurich. Yeah. We're cousins, brothers, sisters. It's kinship. It's a kinship group.
Or uncles and aunts.
Or grandparents.
But I would say there is something else too. I was, when we were preparing for this talk, Begum and I were meeting in the room next door. And it was a Thursday evening or something like that. And there was a group of students that kicked us out of here because they had a meeting. And they were doing poetry night. Completely a poetry night.
Poetry night.
Yeah.
The students come, they write poetry, and they start sharing it with each other. Oh. And that is completely outside of the program. It's extra curriculum.
Okay.
It is, and I think that it is related, I think, to the fact that people come from different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. They immerse themselves here. They come, what you were saying earlier, they become residents of Zurich. Mm-hmm. For a very particular and special purpose, to get to know themselves better.
Yeah.
And to share themselves with each other.
Right. And they start sharing at that very deep level that we don't do that so often with others.
You saw that at the graduation, at the video that was given for the students. People from Singapore, Hong Kong, Africa, America, Northern Europe, all bearing witness to the beautiful, soulful experience they'd had with each other over 5 or 6 years here in this room, in this city, sharing their pains, their soulful sufferings, their joys.
And these will be lifelong friendships.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people I trained with 50 years ago, I'm still in contact with.
Sure.
And well, it's like you go to school together, high school friends, you know. I mean, you form a peer relationship, a peer group, and that continues throughout life, yeah, wherever you live.
I may perhaps tell a dream I had just the night before we started with the Institute. in the dream, we came together at the Hochstrasse, where we started in reality. And there was people around, and African student, a woman, stood up and started moving, dancing in a very amazing, wonderful way. And I, as a president, I started also to dance with her. I'm not a good dancer in reality, but then in the dream, I took up this movement of the dancing. And I think that that's perhaps has something to do with the communitas experience. It's something expressing an emotion.
The anima is present.
The anima is present.
The anima.
It's not an European, it's something international.
Original.
It's joyful, and
Universal.
it comes out of a person. It's not a dry.
What a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start.
That's a great start.
Very colorful.
The immersion program. Why? Why do we have an immersion program?
Well, immersion, I grew up a Baptist. And the Baptists originated here, just outside the Anabaptists,
That's right,
outside
yeah.
of Zurich. And they were persecuted by the Protestants in Zurich because they refused to baptize infants. They said baptism is immersion by choice. You have to choose, you have to know what you're doing, and then we put you down under the water, you die, and you're reborn a new being. That's immersion. It's a transformation process. It's archetypal, death, rebirth. So what we're doing here at ISAP in an immersion program is resting on an archetypal foundation of transformation. You come as this and you leave as that. And in between, you have a period of liminality, you're under the water, immersed in the unconscious, in your dreams, and in active imagination and community, and then you come out as a new being. That's exaggerating it a little bit, but that's the idea.
Too much.
As I said,
That's okay. That's okay.
that's immersion.
Yeah.
Added to that for me is, and because that's a very singular and insular version of it, is the immersion here requires the community living, having classes together, not just classes, the experiential things, the seminars, all of this requires us to face the darkest parts of ourselves. And you don't have to do that if you're doing things online or if you're doing things part-time. You can have a problem, you can go home and deal with it, sort of, somewhere else. But here in this community, when we've come through this process and we move into the analyst realm, we have history together, we have woundedness together, we have repair together, we have disagreements, we have agreements, we have transformation. And we've learned a whole lot about ourselves and our darkness and shadows and mistakes with each other, and had to face ourselves differently because we're immersed in a community that has stayed, that stays. And we don't get to go hide as easily as one can hide in a part-time training or in a virtual situation. And it's another aspect of the immersion for me. I absolutely agree, Murray, with your the metaphor of that, because that is what we do. But we also add this human element, our human frailty, our humanness to it. And a lot of the time I spend in analysis with the students is they're dealing with their problems with each other.
Yeah.
Which is what they have to deal with, because it's also their problem with their mother or their father or their spouse or their da-da-da-da-da. It's all interrelated. And here it's just cooks with such a hot fire.
I did a fair amount of training before I moved back to Zurich. I did a fair amount of training in the United States and was director of a training program also there. And one of the things, and I did analysis for quite a while with a number of students. And I'm not saying by any means that this is general, but it was certainly my experience that has affected my notion of immersion. It is that I was seeing training ruining analyses. That is, when people came into analysis before they were in training, there was a concentration on the things that were important in their own psychological development. Then, once they got into training, it was more about succeeding in training. I haven't seen that here in Zurich. I don't know if that was particular to that training program. I don't, but it seemed to me it's for me it's a little bit about what you were saying about formation versus training. Formation is a very different experience than training, and for me, the immersion does not allow a concentration on intellectual development. It requires a development of oneself on a deep level. It's what you were saying about
one's own rate.
Yeah,
one's own thing.
Yeah. So I stopped doing analysis with people who were in training. So if somebody had the idea of coming into training, I stopped doing. I told them I wouldn't take them in analysis because it just it was a problematical interplay.
It wasn't analysis anymore.
It wasn't analysis anymore. No.
That's such an interesting, strange thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It never occurs to me that, because analysis is here so central and so sacred and so separate from...
Marie, I think you would be the only one who might have had a similar experience since you did analysis in the States, but maybe you didn't have that.
You know, when I moved to the States after training here, after formation here, which was an incredible experience, 4 years in Switzerland, was totally transformational. And I went back there and people who knew me before said, "What happened to you, Stein? You're different now." But I was very involved in setting up 2 training programs in the States. One was the interregional program, and the other was Chicago. And I worked in analysis with a lot of people who were in those programs. But we had a very good community in Chicago, and it was the days before there was a strict separation between the analysts and the candidates. We would have weekends together. Actually, before I got there, there was a bit of a scandal because they would go up into Wisconsin and go skinny dipping together. June Singer and all the students. We didn't do that anymore, but we did have weekends together and sort of community experiences. And the Chicago Institute did form a very tight community. And so the students that I worked with there, I didn't have that experience with them that you're describing, John. But I think you were working in the interregional. It maybe was a different attitude or something. Yeah.
What do you think are our values? What are our most fundamental values here at ISAP?
ISAP.
Good question, difficult to answer.
I mean, the first thing that comes to me is just the value of the truth of my inner world, of one's inner world, and learning to listen and live that truth. It's a core value for me.
It translates a little bit for me into personal responsibility. And I don't mean personal responsibility in the ego sense of that. I mean personal responsibility that is to oneself and also to the relational connections that we have in the world.
Mr. Berg was the president of the IAP in the previous administration. She just stepped down. And at the beginning of her administration, she formed a working group called Fundamental Values for the IAP. And then there was a conference in Strasbourg last year, I think, on this topic, and 8 or 10 people from various parts of the world spoke. And for me, I said fundamental values have to be rooted in a basic, you could say, background. What is the most fundamental thing there is in analytical psychology? It's the self. Mm-hmm. And what comes out of the self as values? And I listed 2 that I felt emerged out of our study of the self, our experience of the self. One is individuation, the value of individuating, of, as you say, Debbie, finding that inner daimon, that inner direction, and living it. And the other is communitas, as you've spoken, John, living with others. Because the self is also a community, and the self has a direction it wants to manifest. That's individuation. So those were the 2 fundamental values that I saw coming out of the self, individuation and communitas. And that feels pretty good to me as also fundamental values for ISAP.
Mm-hmm. And on the structural and organizational level, it is democracy. That our leadership is democratically elected.
Yeah.
That was also one of the causes because the ISAP was founded. Mm-hmm. So it belongs to the basic values of ISAP. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very important.
Very important.
Very important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the democracy of the psyche too. Mm-hmm.
What's in there?
That's the democracy of the psyche too.
In the psyche.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about an analyst of mine who talked about having something akin to a board of directors, right? and each one has to be heard from, and then a decision has to be made among the board about what direction they're going to go. They're going to go in, and that's what we have here too. Yeah. In the outer world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the annual meetings. All the participants come, they have a voice. Mm-hmm. I think it's also a rule in the IAP when a new group is formed, in their constitution, they have to include a democratic process, no matter where they are, China, Russia, no matter where they live. The institutes,
the local group has
to be democratic
structure,
because that's fundamental to
it's fundamental.
Our psychology.
So that's it belongs to the fundamental values. And that's why our neighbor institute is not really democratic.
Paul? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just was wondering, for you,
Absolutely, I have nothing to add to that. Yeah, I think
no other values for you?
No, not other. I mean, there's also perhaps a value to maintain alive Jungian tradition. I think to be open for new
but to stay
approaches,
grounded.
But stay grounded on the Jungian.
Yeah.
That's something very an important value.
I think for ISAP, not all institutes do.
Well, that's what I was thinking. That was one of the reasons for me to come here. I was living in Paris. I could have gone to the Paris group to study Jungian psychology, but I felt that I was going to get some Jung, and then very quickly I was going to get some Freud, some other Lacan. I wanted to study Jung. So I can
If you
do
want to study Jung, come to Zurich.
like you said, it's the Mecca.
That's the Mecca.
That's the Mecca. You
And
always
Zurich also has the atmosphere. It is the home, you know. In the great religions, you've got Jerusalem, you've got Mecca, you've got Rome. Jungians have
Zurich.
Zurich.
But there is something about Zurich. I mean, people have
Yes.
big dreams in Zurich. I mean, there is
Zurich is a
something.
very special place.
Crazy.
And we are the only institute in Zurich.
In Zurich, yes.
In Zurich.
And Americans are asking why you don't have a street called Zeke Jung or a square.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then the answer is we are Swiss, we don't have this.
We don't do that.
Yeah, this
True.
personality
Cult. We don't do
cult.
that.
Yeah,
That's
but
right, yeah.
it is so.
Although it's been a criticism of our leveled against us too, especially by the Freudians that they see us being so mired in a kind of hero worship. I don't know that that's actually true. It might be a stereotype.
They haven't been to ISAP.
Yeah, they haven't been to ISAP.
There's no
Yeah.
Jung worship here.
No.
Well, look, here we
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
We pay our tribute, but
but there is a lot of criticism to Jung the man, to some of his writings as well at ISAP, constructive. And I find that very healthy as well.
I think he'd want it. I think he wants us to look. I think if he were here, he would like us looking at some of the stuff and doing.
I think he would revise his work
I do too.
if he were
Absolutely.
living. He said he would.
Absolutely.
He'd revise every book except one.
And
Yeah,
Answer to Job.
answer the joke.
Yeah, exactly.
That one, I think he channeled.
What about the criticisms? Criticisms to ISAP, to our program, to the immersion program.
Practically costs too much.
Yeah.
Cost, it's expensive. Yeah.
Expensive.
And
Very
that's
expensive.
especially true now with what's happened to the
To the dollar.
to all the currencies against the Swiss
Yeah.
francs. I mean, you know, Murray, when you came, and when I came, it was a much different.
Very different.
Yeah,
It was much cheaper to trade
much
here
cheaper.
than in the States
exactly,
at that time.
but it's
$1 was 4 francs.
Four
francs.
francs. 4
4
francs.
francs, yeah.
Now it's 80 rappen.
yeah.
Wow.
So that I think that and the length of time. I don't think the length of time. I think the length of time is related to the financial aspect of it, because I think that other institutes also take 4, 5, 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
So the time is not in itself problematical so much as it is related to how much it costs.
You don't think that is related to what Debbie is also emphasizing so much today, which is part of your own personal
Process.
speed, as it were,
Absolutely, that's
which is one of our values.
yeah,
I find
yeah.
we respect the individual. There is no curriculum.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You take us.
Yeah, but I think that that's true in other institutes too. That they take 4, 5, 6 years as well. But I think it's a different 4, 5, 6 years.
I graduated with someone that took 13 years to complete the program.
Well, there was a famous person when I was training who had been here for 22 years training. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but I mean he did finally graduate a couple of years later.
That's a bit much, but
What can we respond to that cost piece? Do we have something to say about it?
Well, I do, but it's personal.
Please.
About how much it cost.
Yeah.
My answer to anyone who complains is, if you need to be here, you can make this happen. It will happen. You make it happen. And they say, yes, it's a nice fairy tale. And I say, my life is not a fairy tale. And
Well, it is, sort of.
Thank you, Murray.
I think you're absolutely right, Debbie. I think you're absolutely right that if you're meant to be here, then you also have the resources, and I'm not talking about financial, I'm talking about the internal resources to be able to find creative ways of being able to live here. To live here.
I mean, it is beyond my capacity, all the help I got. I couldn't have planned it.
It's synchronistic. Yeah.
No way
Yeah.
to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the same experience. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just not, if you're worried about that, you're just on the wrong level.
But
We
have also-
provocatively spoken, should we not shorten the program?
No.
So, yes, and
No.
make
No.
You want to one clear
two,
answer?
2 week intensive course and then another 2 week intensive.
You're just trying to get our ire up, aren't you?
And
He's
so
playing
we
the
can
devil's,
sort of-
he's the
Yeah,
advocatus
like other
diabolo.
institutes do.
They do it.
They're
Make
doing.
it,
Well,
make it
that's-
easy, make it cheap, make it quick.
That's right. Yeah, we're not doing that.
And take away the soul.
Yeah.
Or the challenge, or the suffering, or the impossibility of it.
We shouldn't forget that we have also money available for students after the propedeuticum, after the first part. If they can run into
If they apply.
financial
Yeah,
problems,
yeah.
they can
Loans and
loans.
Yeah.
And we
Although if I can put in my 2 cents worth, we could use a lot more.
no, and
Yes, we could.
we always had also organized money outside from.
Yeah.
In my time, we had at least 200,000 francs from people.
Those days are
Those
gone.
days are gone, but
Well, you get to-
Begum and I can
get to
attest to
find
that.
them
You're the
again.
treasurer of
the
ISAP.
treasure. Yes, we have to find.
We had an
Fundraising.
easier situation
Fundraising,
because
yeah.
we were founding something. We were creating. And then you find more easily people who are
Yeah.
ready to pay.
But analysts also reduce their fees for
Analysts reduce their
for
fees.
students.
Colloquia are relatively inexpensive for a double hour. Supervision also, I mean,
Yeah.
most supervisors take a reduced fee.
Exactly.
And we shouldn't forget that I mean, that's how I did it. You know, coming from Chile, for me was not easy at all, but I worked.
Yeah.
When you come to ISAP
Find a
and
way.
you
You
automatically
find a way.
get a visa that allows you to work part-time during the semester and full-time during the summer, during holiday. And that's how I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Working.
one has to get creative for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But there are ways of finding it. That was also my experience. Like you said, Debbie, that if one, I think, looks from here to the end, one doesn't see it, and it's impossible.
You can.
And someone gave me a good advice, said, think about it, but just be prepared for the next step. And that was the best advice I got.
Take the next most necessary step.
Absolutely.
And so don't
And
read the
trust.
regulations.
Don't read them.
Somebody's
Use them,
gonna
as a
tell you.
use them as a reference book. Don't read through them from the beginning.
Yes.
And trust. And
Well,
pray.
And ISAP is not everyone can come to ISAP either.
No.
That's obviously
not a
also
good
we
fit
shouldn't
for
be
everyone.
aiming for.
It's not
for
for
that.
everybody.
Not,
no.
not everybody wants to come.
That's
I mean,
right.
I mean, you know, Murray has been talking about the daimon. If you're not called to come here, you're not called to come here, and it's probably not going to work out well in any event if you do come.
Then who is for ISAP? I mean, what's this experience of a student in the immersion program, and who would be a good fit according to you?
The daimon knows.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I had a dream that made it absolutely clear to me. I had to come to Switzerland. I could have done my training in the United States. I had absolutely no interest in any of the training that I saw in the United States. I came here to go to the winter seminar for a couple of weeks in the mid '70s, and
That was it.
that was it exactly.
And that's what you hear all the time. We had
Yeah.
someone come to Jungian keynotes just to come out of curiosity, and he said, that's it. My life just took another course. And I talked to someone getting ready for exams recently, and he said the same thing. I looked and thought I was interested in this and that and the other thing, and then I stumbled upon, by accident, ISAP. We know there's no such thing. He said, and this is it. I'm done. I am where I am to be.
So people
So what is
feel
that?
some kind of calling or some
Yeah,
kind of,
a
that's
resonance.
it, kind of something maybe that comes from the depth.
There is, yeah.
There's a matriculated auditor this semester, last semester, who is here in Switzerland for another reason, and he's on the tram going back and forth on the 1114, and he saw the name ISAP, and he wondered what the hell it was, and so he came in and he fell in love with the place.
With the place, yeah.
And with the people, I mean, he found that the seminars that were available to him and the lectures really inspiring to him.
The communitas.
Yeah, I think it speaks. It either speaks to you or it doesn't.
It doesn't, yeah.
When I was living in Paris and I was in the process of deciding whether I come or not, I came for a weekend. I told this story in my graduation, and after that weekend, I decided not to come to ISAP. And synchronistic event and dreams told me that my decision was wrong, and it was very clear that I had to come. So it was almost against my will, you could say, and I came. And it was the right decision.
Yeah.
The wrong.
It was the wrong decision. Actually,
the wrong
it turned out to be the right decision.
Against your will.
Against my will.
That's
Against
the key.
my. It was
That's
against
the key.
It was
against your will.
It was against my
And I
will.
guess it's one of the key elements for everyone here. One has to be able, the ego has to be able to get in right relationship to something larger. It has to be able to take hits. It has to be submissive somehow, whether you call that religion or spiritual or whatever. If
Yeah, I
that
do.
can't happen.
And that's missing in the world. Right now, that is missing in the world. That having the ego having a subordinate position to something that is more transcendent, more important,
More knowledgeable.
more fundamentally human.
Or even equal to something,
Yeah.
or even equal.
But how can ISAP survive? They are coming here, doing the training or formation. They're going back to their countries. We are getting old.
Not everyone goes back.
Oh, not everyone.
Some
yeah.
stay.
Some stay.
Some.
A lot want to.
stay.
A lot want to stay. They haven't figured out how to stay.
Well, and a lot would like to come back, even if they can't come back.
You came back, didn't you?
They want to
came
come back
back,
to,
you came
to
back.
Yeah,
teach.
you came back. So yeah.
Yeah.
to
Of
teach.
course, I never wanted to leave. The Swiss didn't want me here. Finally, I could. But people, I mean, our graduates want to come back. They want to come back to teach. They want to come back to do seminars. We have to find a way to make it possible for them to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I do not fear ISAP's future like I also don't fear the future of analytical psychology, because first of all, the kind of people we attract, their energy, their capacity, their gravitas, their...
I'm so impressed with our students, I must
it's
say.
incredible. It's incredible.
I see them in exams, and
Yeah.
I think it's such a good group.
And we train such a lower age, general age of people from so many other trainings. We are attracting people in the most vital part of their lives. I don't see how that could not do anything but bode well for what we offer. And they want this. They want this tradition. They want this. There's no question about it. I mean, you just can't. That's what they want. They don't want it shortened. They don't want to come on weekends. They want this. They're desperate for it, and they feel grateful that
There's a contradiction in terms, because they want the tradition, but the tradition is of creativity, right? And I think that is something that we offer. It goes hand in hand with the idea of formation. Formation is a creative process, and so it's a tradition.
Ongoing, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what we did by getting through COVID was for me the absolute confirmation. We know what we're doing, and we have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
We could have so easily gone to everything online. It would have saved us gobs of money and gobs of time and energy, and we kept knowing and hearing, don't do that. You've got to get through this. We've got to get through this. I talked to all my colleagues training in other trainings. They all sold their buildings. They all got rid of their assets that were a liability then, and we didn't. And it is a huge asset to have this liability of the building, I think still.
But students want it, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. No question.
At the 10 years jubilee, when I was president, some colleague from other institutes said, "Oh, you will die in beauty," or and then now we have 20 years, so we still live
Right.
in beauty.
We've just become adults.
That's right.
It's hard though, but we got to do it.
We are slowly getting to an end of our conversation. Is there something that you would like to ask? Is there something that you would like to say about ISAP, about its history, about its future?
I'd like to express gratitude for our leaders, kept us going all these years.
And gratitude to you for getting us through COVID.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And now we have to move on. John's going to take us to the future, but I know what it costs to lead this group, and it's big, but it's important. And you all will be the leaders eventually. And that's what we need. We just have to keep it going. It's been going all these years against Jung's will. But for, I think, what he believed in.
I still have the dream that we can make a kind of a joint venture with the neighbor, especially for Swiss students who want to practice also with insurance. So I have still this dream of a joint venture for special things. Yeah. Not a merge, I think. No.
Cooperative venture.
Huh?
Cooperative.
Cooperative structure, perhaps to invent. You may have to be creative on this, so that to maintain this immersion, as we've found out, it is important. And it's in our soul of the institute. But for this other thing, cooperation could be a way. And I hope that the young ones, without the trauma of the separation, can do this. Still.
Well, you know, the birth trauma will always be remembered, as traumas are, but it's also a creative process.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to Verena Kost about this. We were very good friends, and she said too, you know, separation isn't necessarily a bad thing. It brings about creativity on both sides. And so I think the birth of ISAP was a traumatic in some ways, but also a very was a birth, and both sides have developed in the meantime and are doing well. And so I like your idea too of cooperation. After 20 years, maybe something is possible.
Would be possible.
And we can be different, but we can respect each other.
Yeah.
And I do feel respect when it comes. I don't have a relationship to people like Verena Kass, but I do have a relationship with analysts from the Jung Institute that are my age. And there is a very respectful relationship of our. I certainly respect their program and their training institute, and I think I feel the same from them.
I think we cross-invite each other to parties. I know students do that. The Halloween
do.
party of at
yeah.
ISAP is a big one.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good. And thank you for providing this discussion.
Yeah, well,
Thank you for coming.
no,
Roundtable.
I think that, I mean, we also, again, I can speak on behalf of the younger generation of analysts and students. We are so very much grateful to you all.
Yeah.
Because we know that this is much more than just a job that what you have done, what you're doing.
Yeah.
You give your soul to it. So on behalf of everyone, all the participants, thank you.
Thank you to the crew.
Thank you
Come
to
here
the crew.
from all over the
Absolutely.
place.